Chapter 16. Naguchi grabbed for the revolver in slow motion. The single patch of darkness separated into many forms. She fell backward as a dozen or so nightmares came at her. What? She fired 4 times and stumbled down the ramp without looking. The deafening shots echoed from the walls and in her head, and 2 of the things dropped. She backed upward against the shield wall, revolver extended towards the huge bugs. Jesus, they were half again her size. They came, but slower. Their short, twisted limbs reached for her. They hissed and cried out like demented banshees. Double rows of teeth snapped and dripped a clear, slimy mucus. Naguchi didn't take her gaze off them, even as she heard more of the things come down the ramp. She was going to die. She panted shallowly and backed farther up the incline, revolver heavy in her trembling hands. Another of the bugs rushed forward with a scream. She jerked the trigger again and again. The thing howled in fury and pain and fell. She fired again, only the shots were quiet, dull clicks. The gun was empty. Was there more ammunition on the belt? Did she have time to reload? Yes, no. The nightmares advanced. She backed up, her last moment of life. Nothing flashed before her eyes save the horror coming for her. No memories, fond or otherwise, came to haunt or comfort her. She was in the moment, and in this moment, the leading bug cried out and jumped. And a hollow thump sounded behind her, as if something had imploded. A rush of heat stirred her hair, and the creature closest flew backward in a rain of hissing liquid, its head gone. The horde screamed in unison, but stayed at the bottom of the wall, their dark limbs clattering on the ground in anger. Naguchi risked a glance behind her. The dragon. It was the monster, masked and armoured. It held the spear with the broken shaft, except it was whole now, the long pole mended. The heavy dark weapon it held was slightly different. It wasn't the creature from the med lab. It was one of the others. The killers. It aimed the weapon at her and fired. Naguchi felt a cry escape her throat, and another of the bugs exploded behind her. She looked back down at the advancing army and felt a rush of air again behind her. The monster warrior leapt over her and landed on the pack of seething black bugs. Naguchi could do nothing but stare. The dragon fell into battle, its movements so swift she could barely follow them. The savage spear sliced and cut another bug into pieces. Another shot from the strange weapon, and dismembered limbs clattered to the ground. The blood of the dark, spidery bugs hissed and melted into the plasticrete. Some kind of acid. She couldn't tell from the screams which was which. As the warrior spun and hacked 2 of the bugs at once, a flash of Naguchi's childhood came to her. Samurai. More of the bugs came down the ramp, scrambled wildly to get at the warrior. Naguchi, still unable to move, looked on at the storm of death and battle. Gakayuan had been sent in to scout, but the hunting he had found was too good to walk away from. Here was a sickly, pale Uman, with no defense. He had watched as the cowering Uman's small burner died, then, as the Kayanda Amada swarm approached the Uman. It did not seem able to defend itself. Where was its spear, its wrist knives? This terrified creature was the monster of which he had been frightened as a suckling. It was a joke. The Uman was day without him. He would save the ugly creature for later. First, the hard meat. Gakayuan's heart hammered with glory as he caught the Uman's attention by burning the first drone. The drone exploded. The others cringed, drew back, looked upon him with the respect befitting a blooded warrior. On some deep, cellular level, they knew his kind, knew the danger he presented. This, the Taikai Date, was nothing. He could have won in infancy. Yautja would cry his name this night, victor of drone and Uman alike. He would bring the Uman's blackened skull to drink from. He fired again, and was again rewarded with a shower of acidic thwei. The hard meat screamed in loss. Gakayuan howled the war cry and jumped. He landed amid the hissing drones and moved among them like the Setgain, deadly and quick. So easy. He spun and slashed, burned and cut at the same time. 2 bugs fell with one slice of his spear. A drone from behind lost its head. He gutted yet another. He was Paya, the conquering warrior. Thwei ran at his feet. The hard meat shrank in terror. More came at him, a relentless flow of fury and sound. He pivoted, hunted. His every movement was an arc of doom and pain. Naguchi gulped air and pushed herself backward toward the top of the shield wall. The warrior was a dervish of wild energy and prowess. The nightmare creatures fell all around him. But more monsters flooded towards him, and despite the fighter's speed and strength, he fought poorly. He hadn't allowed for any outcome other than victory. It was as if he were a karateka who had mastered kata but had never faced an opponent in actual combat. The clamoring dark animals surrounded him, pulled him down. The warrior struggled, but to no avail. One of the giant bugs ripped off his mask with one spidery clawed arm and plunged its razor teeth forward. Naguchi scrambled backwards into her feet, atop the wall. She ran backwards towards the complex and didn't look back. The cries of hunger and triumph followed her, told her the warrior was no more. What were these things? What new disaster had come to visit them?